Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. Are we having people from Wegmans join us as well?
Um, they were going to try. I know one of them is out on some personal time, and the other one wasn't sure if his schedule would allow. But we do have someone from Solvay Bank with us this morning. Um, yes, we do have one person from Solvay Bank from the names I can see on the screen. I'm not sure on the protocol of what's supposed to happen during one of these meetings. So if you could just let me know what you'd like me to do. I do have several different documents that I can open and share my screen.
Yeah,
Or
let's do that.
I've also submitted the PDFs previously to Eric of the sketch plans. I didn't see any feedback come through on those sketch plans that the bank and Wegmans team
Hmm.
helped to
So
develop.
Hi,
that's
yeah,
what we're gonna work through now.
Bill. Yeah, Bill, that's why we're here. This is Jamie. I'm the attorney. So that's why we're here. We're gonna look at these plans, talk about, what the options are. And we
Okay.
did look at, we just haven't commented yet. So that's why we're here today. So
Okay.
Eric, are you gonna pull up the plan or
I'm gonna
I guess I would
screen share
ask
so
Bill.
we can pull that up and work through it. Okay, you should be able to screen share.
Okay. Let me know if you can see the screen.
Yep, I see it.
You're good.
So I have both of them open. This second document was the feedback we received from Tim and Art on the Wegmans team, and then the original clean version. Option one, we've already seen. We've been through this plan. This is the plan that the bank really prefers for a lot of reasons, and Wegmans seems to prefer as well. So this is the present plan. The con being that this drive-through, although it's a triangular parcel, and we kind of have two fronts, really much in the rear because the easement bisects the two pieces of the property. So we tried an option two to maintain a lot of queuing distance to meet the code requirement. And it keeps the teller line back here, but we are putting the teller line closer to the entry, which is one of the cons. It also, in my eyes, I feel like in this.
Excuse me, Bill, and may I interrupt, and I want to understand. So the drive-through is on the James Street side?
In option one, the drive-through is still on the it's on the James Street side. This is James Street.
Mm-hmm.
And the drive-through is here. It's
Mhm.
not directly in the front yard. It's more in like a combo front and side yard.
Mhm.
Because the building is oriented to the Wegmans drive, where the vehicular traffic is approaching the building. It sits parallel and perpendicular to the Wegmans building, which is the largest building around us. So we kind of are trying to orient towards that, and the shared parking that exists along this bank of area here. In option two, which is the first new sketch plan, we have an entrance, and people from the bank parking can come and enter. It orients to the Wegmans parking lot, and the drive-through, I believe is in this location is still what you would consider in the front yard. I view this as the side yard, calling this the front, but I get what you're saying with the building oriented this way, that this isn't really in the side yard. This is kind of combo front and side.
So I guess
option-
I'd like, and
Mhm.
before, well, go ahead with option 3, and then I have a
Yeah.
question for the board.
Yep, so option 3, and then there's option 4. So option 3 puts the drive-through on this side. And I think can get this to work, but it's a tight radius and we don't have as much room for stacking here. And in addition to that, all of the traffic has to walk across the drive-through lane, which we just view as a really just not a great experience from a customer experience, what we try to set up. Option 4 orients the building more towards James Street. The bank doesn't love this option. They feel like this is a tight radius. Also puts the teller line here where the drive-through is, closer to the entry, not facing the entry. So there's some additional risk there with robbery. And they just really like the building oriented more towards this drive aisle in the Wegmans parking area. Being that the lot is triangular, it's a tricky site to try to make it all work.
Before Jamie asks her question, what is your agreement with Wegmans at this point on parking?
The agreement in the lease and the parking is that we can use this parking.
Okay.
Wegmans did want us to have some parking on our site. And what we basically saw is that people visiting would park here, where the entry was, and that this would be more for staff, or somebody coming for a longer period of time. But not providing all of the parking here because there's so much parking already here is where we netted out on this plan. And I know we received the notice from Eric in the meantime, since these were developed, that maybe we needed to include up to 15 parking spots for the bank on our site, and that just seemed high to me. And these show 11 or 12. And I think, we could expand the pavement further and get a few more on here if we need to. I just don't think putting that much more coverage in the Lake Creek watershed would be a good thing. We're trying to keep the drive area as minimal as possible and keep as much green space along James Street to really buffer that. We also
I
have
guess if I can, excuse me, Bill.
Yeah.
We want to get everyone's input before they have to hop off the call.
Sure.
Pretending there's no problems with, let's say anything with respect to front yards or anything. Is there an option that the board prefers, just kind of for starters? Like, I think option 2 is a non-starter. That doesn't seem to fit anything. Leif, any opinions on that?
Scroll through the options for me. Because I'm still staring at option 1, which we know is a issue with front yard. 2 isn't it? Yeah. 3.
This just creates a really tough pedestrian situation with the drive-through and the stacking being here, and then this being an exit. So you're stacking and trying to walk. It just creates.
But you have the stacking in the front versus the stacking on it's coming in.
Yeah,
from
because it's got to be on the driver's side for
Yeah.
the ATM, and the tube we could put on the other side, but we wouldn't do it both ways.
What was option 4? Sorry, I was being interrupted by.
Oh, I don't, yeah, option 4 is weird, but.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, yeah.
Option 3, would, if there were more parking moved off the site, would that be more workable? Or do you need that big of a loop for the driving?
Well, here, we need a variance for the stacking depth. I can't meet the stacking depth required here.
You
so
can't
we
push
would-
the building further back towards James Street to get more stacking and slide it to the right more and
So this is the front yard setback off of James Street,
gotcha.
and
Thanks.
this is the easement.
Gotcha. Okay, I see.
So, you know, we really, that's where we got to this orientation the last time, is because this is where you have the most depth. And in trying to create the stacking required to meet your ordinance. And put some parking on site and keep the pedestrian traffic away from the vehicular traffic. And in addition to that, you know, with as developed as the trees are and how much screening there is already here on James Street, I have this asset. Let me do a new share and do my whole screen, because then I can switch windows. The trees are large. You can see the window with the animation,
Yeah.
correct? The trees are large and do a nice job screening. The drive-through would plan to have the Solvay Bank emblem and name. The sign is here, but I don't really view with how many cars you see back here and how much traffic is already here. I don't view having this in this location as extremely, you know, a non-starter, especially
Am I
given
looking at James Street?
Yeah, you're
we're on
coming down
James.
James Street. Yeah.
Yeah, we're on James Street. We're about to go into the Wegmans parking lot. Here's the existing sidewalk to the existing painted area that you can go out and see today. The trees are very developed here. You know, we do put the sign out on James Street as proposed, but we're getting closer to the Wegmans entry. So at this point, you know, your focus is off of Solvay Bank. You've gone by it, you're pulling in. You're coming into the parking area. I'm going to drop so we're all walking. It's just a little better. And then when you come around this corner, this is when you see Solvay Bank. This is like, you know, exit only, like do not enter. You come by, you have the opportunity to park. You see the entrance. It's oriented with Wegmans, which is over here, this big white block. Again, you have lots of trees, foliage. You don't look at the drive-through. You pull past, you see the signage for the entrance, for the drive-through and on-site parking. And you would pull all the way around to the back, and that's when you'd get, you know, the James Street trees in the background and the James Street traffic, and then proceed through the drive-through. So that's as it's presently proposed. And we also screen.
Is that option 1?
Yeah,
That's option 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's option 1. And I don't view it as that bad of an option given all of the gains. You know, I know it's not desirable in the town code, but I also think we're not in the front yard, and like we're in a unique spot with how the building is oriented on the triangular site. We're kind of in a front side yard combo area.
I think that is worth the discussion about whether that's a front yard. right? So
Yes,
that's.
Jamie, that's what
gonna
that's what it comes
be
down to for
approved.
me is
Yep.
how does this truly meet a front yard requirement or not? Because if the front yard drive-through is just a non-starter, unless we can find a way to have it not be the front yard or not front
So, yeah,
yard.
Mhm. It's a strange thing. I'd like to talk to Alana about that a little bit further. We have to be careful. This front yard rule, first of all, it's hard and fast and it's not a variance issue. Like you can't say, oh, I want to have it in a different yard. So it's always an issue of interpretation, making sure that it doesn't come to bite, this board at another point in time from an interpretation issue. So I think that we should take that under advisement. I see where it's strange because it's a triangle and it's kind of not, it's not a front yard, in a way. So I have to look at the definitions of that. And I think that's something we for sure should do internally. And then talk about, well, if it were back a little further or, like, are there things that we can do? The other thing is that with respect to parking, and it's the opinion of this board that all of the parking can be off of the site as long as there are reciprocal operating agreements, because there is enough parking at Wegmans for them to literally, quote, give you parking, right? So it would have to be permanent. Any parking that is not on your site, including with this scenario where there's not enough on site, move it off and have the reciprocal operating and easement agreements in place permanently for this site. So if that's a scenario, is it possible to have some other configuration that would not strain a front yard definition?
Jamie, I have
If
a quick question. Could there or would there be any access off James Street? Could there be?
There's not planned to be any,
Would
off
they-
of James Street.
Would they grant you a driveway permit? I'm just asking.
Yeah, I don't know the
think
answer to that.
so. I would say
don't
with the
think so.
turning radius and visibility that you have around this corner, I think it would be very hard for me to believe that they would give us a curb cut here with this large a curb cut here.
I would tend to agree with you, Bill, with
Yeah.
that big turn there on the.
This,
So
this
that could
is
be
the
the-
turn.
That could be the justification of maybe not being a front yard if you can't access it from there. I'm just throwing that
Yeah.
out there, that's all.
Yeah, we'll discuss that.
Bill, I have a question. I
Sure.
understand what you're saying about the small space that you actually have to put the building in. But could you, what if you turned the building so that the front door was facing more James Street? And
So I
then you
think-
could access your drive-through, it would be more in the back. Something like
Well-
that, but even a little more turned, where the side of the building was more towards the parking spaces.
So this is orienting, the problem we have is when we orient to James, the people in traffic are coming from this way.
Understand?
So the front door really can't be over here.
No, I was
because
thinking of the front door where you got the little bump out now.
here,
Yeah,
No. Go up a little more. So the front door would be more facing almost James Street. So people would come in and park and just, walk up to the front door. They'd have to pass a little bit of the building.
so here,
No,
no.
come to the other side. See where it's, I can't tell you where it says it. All right, where you are now. So turn the building a little more so it
Mhm.
faces James Street. So the front door is almost facing James Street. So the side of your building would be facing those parking spaces that are Wegmans. And then they could just drive in because then your drive-through could be on the back like you wanted it, and they would just zip right in. Or if you needed some space to have them stack, you'd have plenty of room. just a suggestion. I don't know if you could make that work within the space that you've
Yeah, I'm
got to
not-
put the building.
I'm not sure I'm quite understanding what you're saying. I'm trying to follow, but I'm struggling to follow where you're talking.
All right, if you took what's there right now on this and just cranked the back corner of that building to the right. Yes,
So that would be taking it away from James Street, because right now
taking
we're,
it away from James Street a little bit, but you'd be facing James Street. And then all your stacking and drive-through would be literally on the back of the building still.
so I guess I struggle with how that's different than this.
It's more specifically easy
Yeah.
to say that's behind it, right? So this might be a strained interpretation, but I think we should look at that.
Yeah,
I
let's.
guess my question to the board is, if we go a route, something like option 1, is it desirable? Is there anything about this that you don't like other than the drive-through issue?
No, I think this is I think of all the layouts, this is the better layout. It fronts the building on the
I agree.
exception of the shopping center front. So it's anchors that side. This is just a better layout, especially with the constraints. I'd love to get rid of some of the parking on that site.
I agree with you, Leif. Jamie, is there any way with this particular layout, the front door would be the front of the building?
So we're gonna look at those issues. I guess I wanted to get a read
Okay.
about that. It's not
So-
so clearly a front yard, where you're saying, this is absolutely a front yard, right? So that's gonna be an interpretation issue.
The other thing is those are deciduous trees in the front. So in the winter, they'll have no leaves. So I would like to see what it looked like without the trees, just so we would know kind of what it would look like in the winter season.
I can do that really quick. If you have a minute, I can do that while you're talking. Go ahead.
I mean, the other thing is we can increase that screening potential along that road too, and
I know
Yeah,
that one of
for-
Art's comments was incorporating some additional screening on option 1, in the Wegmans, comments.
This
If we-
is,
If we
Sorry,
go
go ahead.
here, you'll see that, suggest additional landscaped beds here for additional screening. But as I turn on the, and go back out to James Street, give me a minute. This would be the, no trees view at present.
right.
We still have the, evergreen, coniferous trees that we are proposing along the drive aisle. And that be under the building gable. And the signage that you saw, and then we pick up. So we certainly could, extend some additional landscaping through this area. During the, to cover more of it during the winter months. But I don't view it, with this building being so large and oriented this way, I don't view it as that bad. I feel like providing the building in the foreground in the same context as this large building in the back, it actually helps to screen the parking lot, and provide a little more orientation as you come around that turn and pull into the Wegmans entry.
in my opinion, there is a reason why we avoid putting stacking and drive lanes on such a front-facing elevation, street-facing elevation of the building. And that's often because it's the back of the house. Architecturally, it's not treated the same way as the front-facing where the main door is. And, given how difficult this site is, I can appreciate how the site has to lay out. However, you know, that still does disturb me that this is the public facing side of the building. So I guess my request to you would be architecturally, how could we incorporate this primary facing side of the building architecturally with the rest of the building so that it's not reading as the stacking and the drive lane? Architecturally, can you work with the architect to develop, you know, the roof line, the facades, so that it really does read more as a front facing? And if that can be accomplished, I think that makes for a much more successful facade. That makes sense? Yeah.
You know, one comment would be the gable set inside of a larger gable so that there's more prominence to that side architecturally, so that the canopy is not just the only gable on that facade. We look at the columns, the way the columns work, and obviously the screening outboard of that can be done to hide the lower car zones. And then some treatment on the primary wall to capture those zones. So there's some undulations on those facades.
So I heard gable on a gable. I heard some vegetative screening,
Yeah.
and a little bit of motion.
Yeah, because Bill, I just see a blank, you know, the flat wall with the windows that just relate to the classic wall where there's no response to the gable on the actual facade itself.
So this gable, I was trying to balance with this gable.
Yeah, I get it.
Because really this whole facade is the James Street facade. We've done the building in brick, and you know, there's a similar building in Westvale as that we're kind of modeling this branch after. We're playing with some different trim pieces to try to accentuate the corner there. You know, we can definitely further develop the gable on the gable and potentially get a little bump in here to provide a little more interest architecturally. We certainly can work with the bank team on developing a solution like that.
Well, I guess my reaction is that the drive-through canopy really is it's an appendage. It's stuck on the side of the building. It's not treated the same way. I almost want the architectural face of the building to be out on the outside of the canopy. So, you know, this thing is wide. It's an open air. Maybe that face of the building needs to be more enclosed. It needs to have.
Yeah, we can do that.
You know,
Sure.
looking at design options like that, so that does read more as the face of the building on an appendage.
Yeah, I agree with you, Doug. That's what I was trying to get to with how we treat those
Yeah.
columns out the front face there.
Okay. Those are all good comments. I think we can take that and work to develop that more once we get some feedback, maybe from Jamie and the town on if this is viable to keep moving forward. We certainly don't want to go develop that and find out, no, we have a problem with the front yard.
Yeah, it's all predicated on their findings of front yard.
Yep. Other questions or spots you want to see this from, or visuals that I can turn on or off for you?
Bill, can you keep driving down to the Wegmans entrance so we can see this other side if that looks like as much a front yard?
So here
Thank
we orient with Wegmans, and it kind of, I think, really creates you know, a decent view of the building. It's not bad. Once you get to here, we're oriented to Wegmans, and this really reads as the front door, which is the door that everybody's really going to enter through. You have some employee circulation at the back.
While I have my chance, I just wanted to reiterate that I'm in the position of reducing as much parking as is plausible. So anything we can do to reduce unnecessary parking, we should be pursuing that. So in any of these designs.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, Bill, the question comes back to is there a requirement from Wegmans for you to have parking on your site versus just letting it become a shopping center parking? program?
I'll let the Solvay Bank team member, if he's still on the call, respond to that. But my understanding was we were trying to have at least some staff parking on site is what Wegmans wanted to see. Not necessarily the full complement of what the town of DeWitt may require, but we landed on 7, I think, with the original proposal. And you know, we could certainly talk to Wegmans about if there's an opportunity to reduce that further and trade some more of that out.
Yeah, I think we should push that.
So right now we're at 7. Is there a target number that the town would like to see? Would they really like to see 0 on the site? With then, you know, usage on the Wegmans site per easement? Would that be the preferred setup?
Can you say that again?
Would we
Would the
prefer
preferred
0?
setup for the town be that there's 0 parking on the bank site and that all parking is through permanent easement on the Wegmans parcel?
I think technically, Jamie, if Bill,
If
pull
it
up the site
works.
plan, pull up your site plan again.
I don't think it was our preference. I think we were trying to help with solutions.
Right. I think though, I think, Bill, answer me this if you can. If there was 0 parking on your lot, we are technically reducing the parking that Wegmans has because of the drive entrance points that are parking spots now.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, so does the question become is there a net 0 program so we hold baseline?
And I think that's where we are. I mean, right through here is about 7 spaces.
Yeah.
And that's what
You
we
got
have.
7 in there. I see the 7. Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty much where we are, a net 0 program. So I think this diagram, because the other diagrams all have more parking. I didn't go all the way to 15, but I went with more. And I just didn't have that 15 requirement when I developed those other sketches. It came later. So, you know, fine to, you know, talk to the team, but I think the 7 number is probably a pretty good number to be working on.
Is that because you have 7 employees? Is that the reason?
No, it was that we were taking out 7. And we were putting back in 7, and we were going to use that primarily for staff parking. Because no matter what you do, people are going to park here and walk in the front door of the bank if they're coming to the bank.
So what we're saying is that when the counts were done, we'd be at a net 0 if there were no parking on that site. So if it's just purely a numbers game, the calculations that we did was you do not require any parking on that site as long as you have the appropriate operating agreements.
Yeah, so our
Whether
operating agreement, I would need to get more information from the team, but I know we netted around the same amount that we were taking out, reincorporating that and using that primarily for the bank staff. That was that's how we developed that 7 number. And these 2 were added later in the game. This is a lot of work to get to these 2 more.
Yeah, I think I just saw a note pop up. Someone else is on, right? Saying that Wegmans does want you to have at least enough for your own employees on the site.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So is 7 the number?
I don't believe 7 is the number. They may have up to 3 teller windows at a time. That would be 2 operating tellers and then 1 bank manager. So I think the normal operating is probably 3. And during a couple of times around lunch hour and things, it may bump up to 4. You know, so I think that it's somewhere in that, you know, probably 3 to 4 range.
So would the boards, if their deal with Wegmans is they have to have at least enough for employees, let's say it's 4, is that the preference of the board to move to have only 4 spaces over there? Query.
Yes,
I'm okay with it.
yeah,
It's workable.
I'd rather lose the 2 pushing to the north of the page and keep everything parking centric towards the front and,
Mhm.
I think we can make this look better
yeah, I
that way
agree.
too. I think we can clean up the aesthetic on that side.
Okay, so I guess the last question is, if you you need only 4 parking spaces, is there any way to orient this so that we don't have to discuss whether it's a front yard or not? Just
mean,
think
it-
about
it-
that one. Bill.
It still becomes pretty difficult. I
Mhm.
still think you end up with similar diagrams. I'm not going to say the same, and I'm not going to say that it can't be done. You're taking a large amount of pavement requirement away.
Mhm.
So, if I'm certainly, I guess, willing to try again, but I don't believe it changes substantially enough that it's gonna like create this miracle solution on this parcel.
Well,
Uh,
you know what our question is, if and now
Yeah. I mean, I
if you
guess
can look at that.
I will take a look at that
Yep.
and try to see if there's another way to do it, if I can only use 4 parking spaces.
Okay, that'd be
Um,
great.
Yeah, I'll try to see if I can get that to work any which way, with the drive through essentially having to be right here. That's the only spot that by definition, because I can't see putting it here.
No,
'Cause
No,
it-
but I will tell you where I think it wouldn't be strained at all is tilt that,
take this
slightly.
building. If I take this building and rotate it 45 degrees,
Mhm.
I don't have any room for stacking. So I need a stacking variance.
Understood. Okay.
That's kind of what I tried to study. I was trying to figure out a way to get it over here.
Right.
But it just this
Even
is
if
the
there's,
only
even
way
if
I
there's
can do it.
no, even if there's no parking requirement,
Um,
but anyway, take a look at it. I hear what you're
yeah,
saying.
I gotta
Eh,
just look at it. The
Mhm.
easement that you can kind of see dashed through here still becomes a pretty big challenge. But I will give it a little thought and see if I can't
That
come
would
up
be
with
great.
an alternative solution, and then I'll wait to hear what you determine with regards to the front yard. Would that be the
Okay.
next? So those are the 2
Sure.
next steps.
Yes.
Are there any other questions or things that I can show or do for the board today?
I think we're good. Bill, I appreciate it. It's a really good effort and a good discussion. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. Thank you all for the time this morning.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, sorry that went a little over. I'm ready. All right. So we have Sunoco here with us. think this one's just the lights.
Yeah, there should be two,
Yep, I'm just
the
looking at them.
landscape is at
Yeah.
the bottom of the set. Yeah, there's your survey with your setbacks, your easements.
Where would you like to begin?
So do you wanna take us through some of the recent changes or?
Basically, the building's staying pretty much the same. And what we're doing is on the right-hand plan, we have at the crux of the L there, that's the two rear doors. And so just kind of made a loading area in there so you could get in the back, bring in goods. Pretty much the curbing all the way around is the same as existing. The dumpster area is the same as existing, new fences, but in the same location. And there is basically further down on the landscaping, we put in some new plants. The front of the building, yeah, basically a couple of plants in the existing green space. What we're looking at are some tall trees rather than bushy trees and flowering bushes. Let's try another. Okay. Now, basically on the building here, we have like two colors of siding. And what we're proposing is that the lower portion become a cement, kind of cement stone look. And painting the upper siding, new colors, and those are on there. Basically a beige and a gray to match the stone cement. And the siding itself would be a nondescript cream color. We're not proposing to do really anything with the windows or the doors or anything, just replace broken glass, keeping the facade pretty much as is. The Sonora sign, that's a historic thing that the owner would like to keep, even though the requirement is only one sign on the building. In the package that Sunoco gave us, there is nothing for the lower left-hand Conoco sign. So that will be removed. That's pretty much there. We're going to do some new paving in the middle one left. That area of the paving is really broken up and needs to be resurfaced. But that's the extent of the new asphalt. These are the photographs of the existing conditions, basically coming in the back driveway, moving around the site and coming back out. So pretty much all of the curbing is intact. And I think we're okay on that.
Have you heard from DEC at all on the tanks, the fuel tanks?
Yes, we have replaced the tanks. Actually, we are with that with the Trident construction out of Rochester. We got an estimate, but unfortunately the owner was working on the site, but he wasn't.
Whatever you're saying, we cannot hear on this end.
And the car running over the guy. I'm working with this nephew and his architect, which is interested. And you propose about the accident. This. What about the DEC that wants to be already into the tanks? We took all the people out of it. We are buying a better DEC and what we are doing, we are replacing the tanks. We are replacing and the third tank we're gonna recertify.
Okay, recertify.
Recertify, that's what the DEC has.
So he's saying that they are talking with the DEC to replace the tanks. They were working with the company, but that kind of fell through. But they are gonna replace both the tanks and recertify the third. then, so you'll put a new concrete pad
Yes,
above
yeah,
that
yeah,
as well?
yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so, if you go up, maybe.
Yeah, go to the site plan. Next one.
I guess I was just looking at some of the other asphalt on the north side there, and I would defer to the board as far as how much they'd like to see that replaced.
If we can, like, let's start with the site plan, right? And then we'll move to the architecture. Those are two things. So, site plan, we've got, curbing, we've got asphalt, we've got parking. We've got placement of dumpsters. We've got site circulation. So those are all the things. So board, fire away. Leif, do you want to start?
Yeah, let's put up the site plan. Yeah, the thing I noticed right off the bat was obviously replacing the asphalt down at the bottom. There's a lot of cleanup that needs to be done along all that road. It just looks run down. And then that roadway asphalt at the bottom of the page there, this site uses circulation through a driveway as part of ring circulation. So I don't know how you're controlling, it looks like you own the driveway, but anybody coming through is driving right through as people are coming through and out. I just don't understand how that is meant to work. How do you control people from just pulling out right into somebody else coming up that road?
Yeah, how's it safe?
I know it's been that way because when I look at the aerials, it's just a sea of asphalt everywhere. It goes all the way across the road to the property on the other side. And
Could I ask a question? Is that a private driveway over this property without an easement?
Well, that's a question, right? That's my question. What is that?
As far as we know from the survey, there is no easement.
so how does the Anderson Equipment Company get to their property? It's the only way in to the people in the back and also the back entry to the building next door too.
There was a project back around, I think, 2000 or thereabouts, where the hand is on the site plan right now. That particular curb was installed as part of the curbing of the site. So that is something we have inherited, and I think we need further understanding as to who's got legal rights to it.
Yes, that would be critical, I think, in this analysis. What is it? Is it used for the back people use it kind of willy-nilly, or do we know how it's utilized?
I have no knowledge.
As I look at the aerial, it appears to be the only access to that back building.
Okay, so if there is, I mean, a right of way there, Leif, what would be your concern?
But it's just how as a patron driving around the backside of all those other parking spots back there, how are they being contained so they know they're entering a road? Because right now you just drive out assuming you're in a parking lot, and that just needs definition. And
Yeah, when do you have to go down with Lance? Okay, all right, okay.
I think
Joe
So-
might want to meet
Another call.
yourself.
Yeah.
You were just saying, what if,
All right,
what if
okay.
down here was kind of more grass?
yeah, you curbed from spot 18,
Curb down,
and you defined the roadway and an actual in and out
well, there's some.
where the number 5 is.
Or even some directional directional signage.
But yeah, extending
Even
that
this-
down or,
Yeah, and you need, I think you need to contain the 17, 18 parking spaces, so it's contained, not just stripes on a continuous sea of asphalt. So in the winter, people just cut the corner off there and roll right into the road.
Are those even viable spots? Is there enough space
I don't know.
for a drive aisle?
That was the official approval. I think that that's at 45 degrees, yes. Because you really only need one car lane width to go in and out of a 45 degree.
And
Are
17,
there
18
any
are
one-way
45.
circulation signs there?
No, we haven't any.
Okay, so I think we should put that down as there. I think there might need to be some directional signage on that site.
Looks like it's
there-
one way around.
Right, so,
So that we would put at the upper left or the upper right-hand entrance, enter only, and at the bottom right-hand, exit only.
yeah, and over where you start driving around to say one way. That's not going to prevent people from going the wrong way, but at least it's something. We do have a provision in our code, if you just look up directional signs as to what they need to look like and what their size is going to be and make some proposal for that. So it can be part of the site plan.
So my question comes now, as you come along the parking spots 9, 10, 11, and turn around to 12. I don't know what that black line is. There's a dashed line, and then there's looks like a curb line that's totally disconnected from where the parking spaces are. I think that parking drive lane should be defined as where the drive is, not just paint, not just stripes out onto the asphalt, because people will cut the corner and there's a car back there. So I think
Well,
that needs to be.
That loop there is an existing granite curb between 11 and 12.
It's that shape.
Okay,
yeah, this is curbing right here. This is the concrete pad for the underground tanks. But you're saying more than just striping on the pavement, have something here so people don't come around?
Go to the left. I haven't gotten there yet.
Between 11 and 12.
Between 11, yeah, there you go.
That's very ill-defined.
Yeah, that's just a
corner.
curb, and then you've got some stripes, and that's people gonna go to where the curb is. I think that needs to be recurbed. I think that needs to be contained. So at 12 and 11, define the narrow drive lane, so it's obviously a one-way, and then you need to roll in the 12, and I don't know what because 12 is technically not at a 45-degree entry, because the road's at the same angle as the entry to 12.
so let's take that as a note, that needs to be better defined. It needs to be granite curbing. Okay, what else? As far as site circulation, are we satisfied with what's at the front entries? Are those granite right now?
And is that
Yes.
parking, is that asphalt flush with the sidewalk? I think it is.
I believe it's flush right now. I think they're proposing bollards in there. Am I correct?
Correct.
But it's flush at grade with the asphalt in front.
But we need a continuous sidewalk at the front.
The problem is that the door thresholds are flush with the pavement. I have no vertical ability to put in a sidewalk or a curb without taking out asphalt and lowering the pavement.
Is there another way to define that?
17, 18 into the building. I guess pedestrian circulation from here, but I guess maybe on this,
Yeah.
go on this sidewalk then.
This is a new sidewalk, existing sidewalk.
So
Jamie, I think I think my biggest concern is that roadway. I mean, that business back there runs a lot of heavy equipment, big trucks. Right there, yep. Is you're gonna have to define that. And if they own it, somebody has to have use of that. I mean, but that business back there is a heavy equipment. Big trailers, big
And
trucks.
and
big
Joe,
low
to your
beds.
knowledge, do they use that?
That's
It-
their
this
only
would not
entrance.
be- Okay. So it
That's their
must, it
only
must be
entrance.
a right of way. So I think that's a note that we need to, that the applicant needs to take under advisement, show us how that's going to happen. Seems to be important, and I think we're talking about signage. I don't know if there's anything else that can define a roadway like that.
Well, the question I have is whether that's a roadway or a driveway, whether the standard is town paving for public roads or whether the standard is a private driveway. And I'm
Yeah,
also,
so if it's a private driveway, but from a site plan approval standpoint, then this board has the authority over it. So we're saying, propose something that's going to make it delineated, make people stop, make sure they know they're not the only ones using this, that it doesn't stop. Maybe it's even something at the entryway where it goes onto the other property. Some kind of a curbing aspect up there.
where that hand is, that is the edge of the existing asphalt going off of the property to the other property. So if you take that edge and bring it forward, basically where we're putting in the new pavement, the shaded area.
Can we look at the overhead of the site?
Well, let's look at the survey first, because there's a large right of way and an easement in the area we're talking about.
Yeah, you
You
have,
see it right there, it goes all the way to the corner of the building, so it's very difficult to read, but Doug saw it earlier. So it looks like it's like a 10-foot wide, it says easement, but then the whole lower side of the site is a right of way from the south to the corner of the building. And then if you go in the back.
Where is it, Doug?
Right there, right there. Right there.
That's that entirety of that is
That
an
says
easement?
right away.
That says
Right away.
Yep, and then you go inside there, and there's something that says easement. With a sign and an easement. See the sign is in the easement? Yeah. And then you go on the
But I
back of the
think-
building, and
Yeah.
there's a gas easement. And then through the parking area we were just talking about, there's a sewer easement. Which should
Yeah.
be parking, but. And then the front doesn't, I'm assuming that the front must have some type of a DOT easement on it, but maybe not.
I think the property line, I think the right of way is right there.
Yep, that's what it shows, yeah. But I think the south side is the problematic area, just, clarifying what's going on there.
So the
It does-
question is, who has the easement, who do we need permission from? And what are we going to do within the easement if permission isn't granted?
Right.
And not just the easement, who owns the right of way?
Well, the right of way, the actual property then is owned by this owner, and then I assume it's the back people that have the right of way easement to their benefit.
We would have to do a deed search to find the easement description.
Yeah, I mean, it is showing on that survey, so the surveyor must have found it, but there's no book and page that I see. I can see it now, it's very light. Where it says right of way, and how does it impede right now? Does it impede any of the parking? I don't think so. I'm not looking at a side by side.
Jamie, I can see something where it says former South Line base something. Well, they just clicked it off. I can't read it now. There's book
yeah,
and
yeah.
page.
Was there? Okay.
I
Yeah,
was trying to put up a side by side for Jamie.
Excellent.
okay, it's a Bay Terminal Realty Corp. Book 1231, page 406.
So it might be in that deed.
Yeah, and then there's another one. It says former North Line Bates, Bates, book 1123, page 265.
Mm-hmm.
I think one more wrinkle to throw in here is that easement, that roadway, I think is also tied into the property to the south. They have asphalt up on the road, Americue, or formerly. So they must also be using that access.
This is Americue parking and the drive out.
Is it?
If you look on the aerial, it's all connected under that lane.
Yeah. Can you pull up the aerial, Leah?
I don't think I have one in there. Do I?
She can Google search it.
Yeah, it looks like they have some drive-through lanes there and also access out onto that driveway.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, that reads as if it's a public road shared amongst 3 different lots, but it seems like it's really on this parcel, clipping the corner, and everything is focusing around that corner.
I agree, it looks like 3 businesses are using it, but it's owned by the applicant.
Right. So really that needs to be designed, laid out, circulation, the clearances for circulation need to be designed as if it's a road.
So how would the board want if we're circulating through the pump area, from top to bottom, do you want the autos to go directly to the road, or do you want them to come into this branch road, or how do you want to control the traffic? I think having 2 exits out onto Thompson Road doesn't make sense, but to have the exit to the private driveway is really tight. Any preferences?
If someone's pulling into that and then makes a right to the pumps, is that even feasible?
No, I think we were talking about going above the upper entrance is entrance and the lower one is exit. Yeah, that would be our exiting.
I almost want to take them down to the bottom. You know, if you're driving south, you almost want to go kind of to the right to enter into the road and not enter into that road at the corner.
What, Doug? What?
In other words, in other words, when you're exiting the pump driving south, to me it seems pretty a hazardous situation to exit south right at the corner of Thompson Road.
Why do you think it's hazardous to exit south? Because that seems to be a road.
Well, it's an intersection. It's right at the corner. Basically, converging of all different directions around this site are converging at that corner. And I think that's something that's a potential hazard.
Was it better to send everyone around the building to the back of it and then drive south to the private road?
That would be a huge improvement if you can control it.
That means you can only enter the pumps from the south. And that's not gonna happen.
I did talk to state DOT about this when we first got the application, and they didn't seem to be concerned about that part that seems a little uncontrolled.
That's weird. Usually the ones that are concerned.
Yeah, I mean, they said they had done a road project through there and kind of curbed everything, and they were okay with the access.
I mean, did they look at that as if it was a private drive, just a curb cut from the property, or as a road?
That I'm not sure. I can't remember the details of the discussion. It was a while ago, but I mean, I'm pretty sure they're aware of what it is.
Was the
If you look
business
at it-
open at the time? Because maybe there wasn't a lot of traffic because the business was closed.
I mean, we talked about it in the context of looking at a site plan for this business.
The existing curbing was the 2000 project. So I'm not sure that DOT had anything more to say than what was approved on that front curb back then. And it seems that that curbing stops right at the edge of the easement, which would suggest that either couldn't arrive at any agreement on the easement to change that or whatever the reasons were for being the way it is.
Okay, so trying to kind of move this along do we have an idea of what this board would like to see in that? Now we have a better idea what's going on there. You know, what they would like to see. I know there's only some of the asphalt is intended to be fixed or replaced. I don't know if we want more. I think we want directional signage. And I think we need to decide what direction and then maybe how the parking is angled. So I threw that out for discussion.
Well, wouldn't they propose a site plan, like a site plan that shows parking, directional parking, you know, the flow of traffic, the flow of pedestrians, new curbing? Like, I just think we need a full site plan. Like, without that, we could sit here and throw out things that they could do all day. But
Well, I think to just try to give a direction and a preference of this board on that, I think is important for them so they can have something to work with. That's why we're having the work session.
Right.
So that's why it's out there. And I know that question of what's going on at the front of the site is very unacceptable from a current site plan standpoint without some kind of a access for pedestrians and those bollards. So what's our guidance on that?
I think the whole sidewalk asphalt entry sequence needs to be looked at, because just looking at that image that was just up, that's an absolute mess right now of just broken up everything everywhere. The pad at the concrete pad at the gas pumps is broken up in the corners. That asphalt's a mess there too. I think this is the opportunity to clean up, get the site clean and looking fresh and new and like a part of the community, not just squeeze. I feel like we're just squeezing somebody in here to because it's a shell of a building that we can use. And I think it.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Globally.
Yeah, totally agree. And I'm now starting to wonder if this site doesn't work because of the location of the pumps in the canopy. And had it been considered that the pumps in the canopy would actually be better suited top of page, kind of where the tanks are, that would solve so many problems. If it was there, circulation would be the biggest since you're already replacing the pumps, you got a lot of concrete work. Lay it out over there,
Over where, Doug?
Top of the page.
top of the page,
Like
where
not in the
the
front?
tanks are, right there, right there.
Mhm.
You'd have better flow of traffic for sure. And then it's out of the way of people, you know, pedestrian traffic.
Correct. And then you could have parking in front where most of your customers are gonna come and go anyway.
And a decent pedestrian access, because
Right.
the pedestrian access proposed right now is not appropriate for the area or the site. So I think that's an important note. The cleanup proposed, while appreciated, is really not complete. It's quite a poor and rundown site and doesn't at all fit. Well, look at the Amerique building, for example, it's right next door, or what's happening along that corridor. It's just not meeting really the site standards. And again, while we understand this is a site and it should be redeveloped and no problem with using the building, it needs to be developed appropriately. I think you can get the parking on, so you don't have a problem there, but yeah, the site circulation, the condition of the site and the asphalt and what's going on there is not, it's not working. Am I speaking out of turn, or is that the gist of it?
Doug, I think that's a great idea, because if you go down the road a half a mile and you look at Burn Dairy has a similar setup.
Mm-hmm.
Right, where they have the gas pumps on the north of the building, they have access into, now granted, they have another large fueling port in front of the building, but they have parking in front of the building and the side, and they have access in the front and the side. And, you know, when you go there, it's a lot easier to get in and get out. It's more user friendly, right there.
You're going a little further south, yeah.
Yeah, right? I mean, they do have a large fueling station in the front, but the one on the top there is really what you're talking about, right? Because you drive in there and you have parking on the north end and you have parking on the east end. And it flows nicely when if you've been to that store.
Precisely,
right?
precisely.
And you got employee parking in the back. I mean, you know, it's, when you go there, it's friendly, it's easy in, it's easy out, you wanna go back.
I will tell you this, having served on the board, you know, with the board at that time, this site was put through the paces, and the gas stations generally are. So the idea of trying to retrofit that at this point it's challenging. And
then the end caps there, that's kind of what we're talking about too, right? Where the parking is better delineated with those little islands.
In the front, yes, it has a curved end cap that really defines
Right.
circulation in a site where everyone drives every which direction. I think this site needs that sort of organization.
that's a good guidance. Let's talk about the architecture for a minute.
So you are
Okay,
proposing two
Don't
attached
everyone
signs.
talk at once.
Eric's on.
Eric's.
So if you are operating as one single tenant, you're allowed one attached sign.
Correct.
Is that Sunoco sign proposed to be attached?
Yes, these are channel letter signs here, and this was the historic sign that the owner would like to continue. That's what it has been for the last 25, 30 years.
Cause I know initially it was this one tenant or two?
Yeah.
If you were two, you could have two attached signs.
Yeah, two tenants.
But I think I've heard both, single tenant or multi.
I mean, it was originally designed for the previous owner as two tenants. And in our discussions, it was going to be one tenant, so we took out the wall. But if you go to the floor plan, we can just remove the revision and leave the wall. But see, the thing is, I doubt if it's
Always be, yeah, because it has 2 meters for electric, 2 meters for gas, and 2 separate bills. 2 separate addresses.
So I guess you would have to be on the same page there, where it's one or two. If it were two, I believe you're allowed one sign per tenant. I don't know how the board feels about the Sunoco sign, but I'm just looking at the numbers of signs here. I also believe the code has something about graphics on the fueling canopy, like the Sunoco logos on the canopy. I'm not sure that that's allowed by code.
It is not allowed. It has to be plain, or I think we've allowed it like a 2-color tasteful solution in the past. But no
Similar to
logo.
what they have in elevation 2.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the signage right now. I always want to reserve and look at that separately. But we will talk about that, but I know for sure it's not allowed on the canopy. What else with respect to the building? Is it suitably fixed up?
Architecturally, it needs a complete overhaul in terms of materials and repairs, but because there's a restaurant proposed, what sort of mechanical exhaust equipment is going to be installed on the building, around the building? How is it screened? Where is it located?
the makeup air unit, I believe, is on the roof. And the exhaust fan for the kitchen hood of the restaurant is through the back wall. It's on the roof? Okay, both of them are on the roof.
We'll need that to be clearly shown on the documents.
And then you're proposing to move the HVAC?
This is dead, that's going away.
And I don't think I saw proposed screening for where it's gonna go. I saw you were removing it from here, but I didn't see what it was gonna look like.
Well, that is the HVAC unit for space conditioning. And in the new plan, we're putting in new furnaces there, and we will have some condensers for AC on the ground. But the furnaces are now inside the building rather than outside.
Okay. So I think what Doug was saying too, on the elevations, just show the mechanicals on the elevations. Get them on here to represent them.
So this represents the all new siding and all new stone wainscot or water line, or
Yeah, lower base here.
all new siding as well?
We were talking about painting. The existing siding is vinyl siding in fairly decent repair, but we do have to patch where those things are being removed from the back, so pretty much I'm just going to paint the existing vinyl siding to match after we've done all the patching.
So it says wash features. Are you washing the roof also? Like, what do you, like, it looks,
No,
This
the walls are washed, the canopy has downlights, and the soffit in the front of the building, you'll note that the front of the building, we've got about a 4-foot overhang over the sidewalk, and we have downlights in there, so the front of the building will be washed across from that soffit. But there is nothing lighting the roof, everything's down lighting.
I mean, except for the sun. I didn't know that you were thinking of like wash as the lights. So new wall wash fixtures. Now I read the whole sentence, sorry. So I guess we would need the photometric drawings for your lighting also.
Yeah, they're in the package.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't get to see this package.
I didn't see like a foot candle drawing photometric plan, I just saw cut sheets of the fixtures.
That was all that was available from the manufacturer. But being down lights, I mean, you know, that's your back parking lot light. Those are the parking lot lights on the existing stands. Those are the wall washers there.
You could do some nice things with those deep soffits and downlights.
Yeah, on the front, if we, I think, one more down. That's still the wall pack. Yeah, these are the soffit lights we're gonna put up in the soffits to wash the front of the building. And those are also the canopy downlights. And on the drawings, if you look at the screening, I basically built a baffle around these canopy downlights to do a cutoff so that you're just going to be illuminating the pump areas. I think it's further down.
That was the last slide.
In the landscaping drawings. Second package. Yeah. Down.
I like that.
Down. Oh, maybe.
I know they're in here somewhere, so.
Yeah. I did a little
Here we go.
diagram. There we are. So there's the cutoff, and there's the canopy.
So yeah, this is what was provided for lighting plan. There wasn't really like a foot candle drawing showing lighting at the property lines and such. Just showing that the baffles were directing the light downwards.
Okay. I think that's a code required submittal, as I recall.
Well, then I'm gonna have to find a different manufacturer. The manufacturer didn't provide the information.
So my takeaway from the architectural treatments on this building, which, you know, I think we're all trying to find some energy in this project. We haven't found it yet. It's a pretty flat project. But my takeaway is that it's trying to replace the vinyl siding. a new stone water table, slap some paint on it and do some repairs. Is that a fair statement?
It's fair
Anything with
statement.
the windows? Yeah.
I think if you talk about putting the pumps where the tanks are and the tanks where the pumps are, I think that then requires rearranging
Change the canopy.
the entrance and the internal layout.
Need to be able to access.
I don't
the
know
tanks.
whether, we'd have to look at it.
So the applicant is saying they tried to move the canopy there in 2003,
2003, when we applied for the planning board, we want
and they're back before the planning board then, and the space doesn't work because of the underground tanks.
Yeah.
And the fueling canopies are brand new, so they weren't proposing change. Is that correct?
Yes.
But you mentioned you are replacing the tanks and you're upgrading the pumps now. So now is a good chance to do it.
The tanks, yes.
Yeah, we changed the tanks.
Yep.
But yeah.
The pumps, no. New tanks, same pumps. Do you have any drawings or stuff for when you were trying to figure that out that shows that it doesn't fit, that you could provide us with?
We have only the drawings of the existing curves. That was the final, I guess, approved drawings. I've seen those drawings and they pretty much match what was built, so I think they were the approved drawings after all the considerations.
It did seem like that was maybe the best solution if it could work, to put the pumps over there. It seemed like it freed up the circulation a lot better in your front yard with the parking.
I think the first issue is we have to resolve the easements and what's going to happen on the curbing on the south of the site. Whether, if we have the ability to go and create some new curbing, if we don't have the ability to create and extend that curbing, then I think the existing layout is what you're left with. You know, we can't get in there to change it, we have to go with what's there.
Right, so I think that we have a little work to do, right? You've heard some
I think the legal
comments.
question is the important question at this point before we can go forward with any other discussions.
Right,
You know, what
but
we-
exactly, and then once we get an answer to that, I think you have the idea of kind of what the challenges are with the site, what the design guidelines and the board are going to require for the site to work, including pedestrian circulation, parking, curbing. All of that is going to be critical. Not none of, but a lot of what is here is not meeting any of those design criterion. So take a look at the design guidelines. When we get the answers to that, we'll visit it. We'll probably have to have another work session when you come up with something. Take into account the architectural comments. Did we finish those in any meaningful way?
I think they hinge quite a bit on what happens with the canopy. I mean, I think there's opportunities there,
Mhm.
but I've expressed
As
mine.
far as
Yeah.
As far as the
Possibly.
building facade, though, what they're proposing, is that going to be enough of a fix to an extremely tired structure?
Well, I would suggest possibly some trim additions, maybe some wide corner boards and other things like that. That could perk it up a little bit.
I would
Anyone
agree,
else?
Kathy. Yeah. It's a tired building, very tired building that we're trying to just wash and paint. And
True.
I'm struggling with that whole concept on this property.
So we're looking at a much more significant fix up, not
Yeah.
asking you to tear down the building,
Nope, just,
you know, just fix it. 'Cause this is, yeah, it's just not meeting the design guidelines or the town standards for this area right now.
it just isn't.
So what would you be looking for?
I think,
Vinyl siding is not a material that we endorse typically. Needs to be natural materials, stone materials, as you suggested. It could be articulated in different ways, but that's my first reaction.
Yeah,
Well, I think the two materials, if you're either talking brick or you're talking stucco. If you're not talking siding.
well, it could be other siding materials that work besides vinyl.
I don't think that cement board siding and vinyl siding substantially changes the appearance.
I don't know what to say without becoming the architect and designing it myself. So which is, I'm not gonna go down that road. I can look at trim packages and panelization and panelizing certain walls and having siding on other walls to give it some life and some interest to where entry is compared to where side walls are and rear walls are. There's gotta be something that can be done. We're trying to find excuses in my mind to do nothing, and that's not sitting well with me right now. I don't know how to say it any more clearly than that, so.
Well, I do think that if you move the canopy, the fuel canopy, then we've got to really redo the facade. Because you're gonna need some windows out towards the canopy for the cashiers, and you're going to need some visual cues from the canopy to indoors if they're gonna go in and pay. So I think the real facade question is dependent on the pump and the tank question.
I agree. I think the primary thing is this idea of the ability to move the canopies to the north side to open up the front constrictions.
is that a possibility?
Yeah, that's a good question right there.
Are we just barking down a tree that is?
It's simply a question of dollars. I mean, the tanks are going to be replaced, you're going to be digging a hole. You're going to have to connect the tanks to the pumps. You're gonna be replacing asphalt, so I think, the question is moving the tanks is the additional cost. And you're committed to making that first dig. So it's a possibility, but again, it only makes sense if we know how we're going to deal with the south side and that driveway.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying that my point at this point is to find out all the legal ramifications of those easements and start talking to whoever has those easements and see what their feelings are. And then at that point, come back to you and say what we've discovered.
Yes, yes, and then a plan for, based on that. So, okay, well, let's, it's a lot to chew on right now. So if you can, move forward in that direction, then I think we'll be standing by for further advice and consultation.
Okay,
All right, thank you so much.
So I'll get with you about just kind of going back and forth with the easement and stuff, and then I guess just let me know what you find out as you do, and we'll go from there.
okay, would it be, I mean, we're gonna first have to go to the county, and we're gonna have to get the copies of the easements.
Yep.
Does it make sense to have a joint meeting between the easement people, the property owner, and you to discuss what the issues are before, and see give them something to think about and the direction that it's.
At least clue them in on the process or what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
I would think so.
So if, once you figure out what's going on with the easements, then we'll look at it, at legal, okay? That's me. And, we'll bring it to the town and we'll discuss it.
Okay, then I will give you a report as to what we find out about the easements and if we have the
Sounds good.
meeting, the report of the meeting.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Okay. Off to the county clerk.
Good luck.
Yeah, see you later.
Thanks.
Okay, I think we're off the public meeting. So we're adjourned on that respect.